Gentlemen, welcome back into the Duval Dive. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game of the Jaguar Report. And hey, a few things. If you're watching the video, you'll see the big events of the offseason. There's Josh Allen getting his bag. There's BTJ. Is that what the kids are saying? BTJ. There's that drafting. There's all that going on. We have a draft class to talk about for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then some other news. I got to bring in my personal champion, Travis Holmes, Big Cat Country. What's going on, my man?
I'm doing well, sir. It's been a wonderful night. How you doing, bro?
Hey, man, listen, I'm juggling, and I'm excited once again. Listen, I've been wanting to see your reaction to this draft, and don't worry, I have plenty of hugs for things that did not go the way as you and our guest planned, our second guest here of all time here on the Duval Dive, and I could think of nobody better. He's a man who might need a hug or two because some things didn't go exactly the way I think he wanted, but we'll see whether or not we thought it went well overall. Jamal St. Cyr, News for Jags. What's going on, my man?
Hey, it's going great. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Hey, listen, I know you're all smiles. I know you how to present. That's what a good anchor does. But listen, bring it in. I know they didn't get Fuaga. I got you, homie. Come here.
Look, I wanted a big lineman just to improve that offensive line in front of Trevor. But look, I have very few complaints with how they handled the first round. Very few.
Okay, fair enough. And listen, I think there's really only one team NFL-wise that people are generally complaining about. But wait, listen, this isn't that kind of show. That's more of a cousin of the night. Anyways, what? I didn't want to just say fraud cons and make it that obvious. You know I went dad joke, Travis Holmes. Oh, no. Anyways, let's get some other news out of the way. I don't know about you guys, but I was a little disappointed where Jacksonville's own Bruce Leroy, a.k.a. Zay Jones, was released. You can laugh all you want. You know I'm right. He looks the part.
He does look like it.
Listen, for me, and I know that there was some conversations that Travis and I had kind of off to the side. I actually know we talked about it last week on the Duval Dive for the first round. I had said that an argument for those who hadn't seen the tape, an argument could be made that Brian Thomas Jr., BTJ, right? I got to be hip. BTJ was essentially a second Zay Jones type. Maybe, I don't know. Well, somebody thought so, and the cut was made. Zay Jones released. Jamal, give me your response.
I don't know if I'd call him a Zay Jones type. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I mean, in this offense, he is going to play the position that Zay primarily played. Mm-hmm. I kind of look at this move like they were kind of doing right by Zay. Like Zay wasn't going to play as much in the offense this go around. Obviously, with Gabe Davis on one side, Brian Thomas Jr. on the other side, they went a different direction. They could have held on to Zay. Like financially, they weren't locked up where they had to get rid of him. But you could have made him a post-June 1 cut and held on to him a little bit later. But then it's harder for him to go and find a job. You could have held on to him and let him fight through training camp, see what those undrafted guys have, see if you got a young guy. But again, harder for him to go find another team. I think this was kind of one of those, Zay, we appreciate you kind of moves, so we're going to go ahead and move on, give you plenty of time to go find another team where you can contribute and play a role.
Oh, and Travis, I know you and I talked about in preseason last year that the receiver core overall, not necessarily at the top. You know, you had your concerns about Calvin Ridley, and a lot of which he proved them right, I'll be real. But from below that number one receiver spot, we felt like that receiver core was pretty deep. From that standpoint, it makes sense that Zay was let go, yeah?
I mean, overall, I thought the receiver core was solid below Calvin Ridley because they were able to at least show that they were solid in the 2022 season. We know that they weren't necessarily that top-tier elite, number ones to make teams shift coverage to them overall. But for the most part, that they were an above average, solid receiver core, and you just thought, hey, if they don't have that injury bug, they're probably going to be okay. Well, as the NFL works, that parity comes, that bill comes due, and all of a sudden the injuries come, and it's a new ball game, and it really stinks for Zay because if he didn't have those injuries last year, there's an absolute solid argument that he probably would be on the roster right now.
Yeah, well, and we mentioned the bill coming due, of course, as we've cited, the cap number certainly significantly less with BTJ presumably taking that spot. Rookie camp, mini camp coming a week from this weekend. So, and I listen, I know if you look at News 4 Jackson, us, we'll have plenty for you to talk about once that happens, I'm sure, with all that. But that being said, let's segue gently then with the wide receiver BTJ being the first round pick. Everybody on this panel had the Jags going a different direction. Again, I'm sorry, Travis, that your opportunity for your half dozen mocks with Jaguars at pick 17 did not come to pass. But before we get into the player, listen, all I keep hearing, if I can't hear any more about fleece involving the trade with the Minnesota Vikings to trade back, I'm going to start a sheep farm. Jamal, this is the good that Balky does in the early parts of drafts, getting teams to do that sort of thing. It's almost kind of like my favorite GM, John Lynch, doing what he does to teams. It had that feel of, oh, why, thank you, value in that moment, right?
Look, I mean, honestly, they call him trade back Trent for a reason, right? Look, he pulled off the deal, so it's huge. That was a deal, and that's kind of what sold me on it. I kind of said earlier, I can't complain about the process. I think ultimately, if they stayed there, they would have taken Brian Thomas Jr. They were clearly that high on him, and clearly that low on this year's cornerback class as far as the first round talents go. Anyway, look, you can't complain. They've kind of doubled down and said, all right, we need to figure out a way to get this offense to be more vertical. It wasn't that a year ago. So you go in and bring in a guy like Gabe Davis, who has made plays down the field consistently in Buffalo. And then you go get a guy like Brian Thomas Jr., who, if the pieces come together, is a number one in the NFL. At worst case scenario for him, he's big, he's fast, he's going to stretch the field, and teams will always have to account for him. So his worst case scenario in the NFL is a guy that has a role as a deep threat and is just that one guy. And that's even something that the Jaguars haven't had, like a true deep threat wide receiver in I don't know how long.
I mean, I would count DJ Chark, but because of his injury situation, how useful really was that? No, I get where you're going there. How quickly you expect him to be that guy, though? If I mean, you're talking about this high ceiling he's got. Like, you're not seeing that in year one, Ryan.
I can't imagine you'd see it in year one. You probably see some flashes. You want to see flashes. I think this year he's going to have a solid season. I'd say probably in the neighborhood of like 700 to 800 yards, throwing like 5-6 touchdowns for him. So I think he's going to have a pretty good year. I think it's going to be equivalent to some of the production you saw from Zay as far as numbers wise. But you'll see flashes, and you think maybe year 2, year 3, all of a sudden – you start seeing maybe those flashes to be more consistent. It's just like just about any other rookie where you just want to see the flashes early. I think they drafted him knowing that he wasn't asked to do some things at LSU that he's going to need to do in the NFL. And that's not to say he can't do them. They just didn't ask him to. So it's going to be a learning process for him of being asked to do it in the game, and for the coaching staff of figuring out, can he do it at a high level in the game?
And guys, I know I'm setting the table to just get a bunch of nods here, but like, I can't imagine other veteran receivers in a locker room that'd be a better influence than Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk. These guys are absolute workhorses. And Jamal, I know you've been covering Christian for a while. I'll tell you this, covering Gabe Davis, he's been that dude since he was a college student at UCF when I was covering him with the black and gold banneret. Bing! So with all that in mind, it's promotion, Jamal. No, listen, I mentioned all that to say, like, I think I got to go back to you with Travis, because I know there's going to be a connection. Jamal, jump in where you feel comfortable, but this is a make Etienne great again move as well, right?
Oof. I've been saying that's been my thing since early offseason, and I said it then. I'm like, hey man, they don't block well enough. Even when they're in tight splits, they simply don't do it. I mean, that's something that Ridley struggled with. I mean, I saw that dude looking like a pinball on occasion, trying to block people. And I'm sorry, it's just true. The film's there. It stinks. I only judge what I see on tape. So I'm happy to see them bring in a bigger guy who is able to truly block. That was the only reason I was all in on the Ayuk situation. So me seeing them do it in a much cheaper fashion, going the drought route, going the Gabe Davis route, so they can actually just have two, even in 2 receiver sets or even in 3 receiver sets, have the ability to truly block at the edges and just establish the running game. That sounds like a great idea to me, because again, they were a little too finesse for my taste, and that's going back to even 2022.
Where the pencil whipping was the main point of the offense. Doug Peterson, again, it all comes down to coaching matchups, really, or at least it did in 22. In 23, I don't really, let's put it this way. He was this close to beating an Andy Reid team in week 2. So,
Yeah, I'm just saying in the way that it worked. Like I think they won in all the margins in 2022 in the second half of that season, and I'm not disillusioned enough to not believe that. Even though I love the team, I can still look at the film and say, all right, man, they won in the second half of seasons in a lot of close fashions. Sometimes even in spite of the running games kind of faltering on them because they couldn't run, in between the tackles like they wanted to. So they established the running game outside of the tackles, things of that nature. So we knew that then, and it only got worse in 2023 with the injuries. So my overall point was hey, man, let's go back to basics. Can we establish a real, true running game, including the receivers? And let's find a way to make ETN great again. And I truly am. I'm going in with that. I'm here with it.
That's right. The guy that normally wears the "This Team Makes Me Drink" shirt isn't that disillusioned yet. Okay, well, that's a good call. Anyways, no, and here's the thing I'll add too. I mentioned, we talk about Fuaga being the main target that Jamal would have liked to have seen. Travis, we made jokes that Jared Verse was there, and that didn't happen. It's because Allen got extended. I get it. For me, I know the Jags were low on the corner class, but dang, considering you have what you have in the coaching staff with Nielsen and man-to-man defense, I would have liked to see corner, but they at least hit a need. And I feel this is a good sign for you Duval devout out there, you Jags fans, okay? I felt the same way about Anton Harrison last year that I do now about BTJ. Right receiver, I'm not sure he's the wrong guy, the correct guy. That being said, I did not watch a whole lot of LSU other than the kickoff classic where they came here to Orlando to battle FSU in week 1. And I was really relatively unimpressed because Jane Daniels had to do a lot of work in that game, and they still got murdered in the second half. So, obviously entire seasons are a thing. I didn't get a whole lot of time in film with LSU. That is what it is. This is what happens when you're focused on a team that's, joining a Power 4 conference for the first time, all that other stuff. But if you're superstitious, I feel the same way as I did at Anton Harrison. And listen, he's a guy, if anybody gave O-lineman credit, that should have made ballots for Rookie of the Year. I said it. But if no one else fights for my fat brethren, who will? Speaking of beef, Mason Smith, I keep saying that wrong. Mason Smith in round 2. Jamal, give me your thoughts on this. This one I'm hearing kind of both sides of the tracks. This is good. That's not. I don't know. Where do you fall out?
He was a guy that I kind of had an inkling would end up in Jacksonville one way or another. I didn't think it was going to be in the second round. So I don't hate the pick because I really love the upside of this dude. But the second round is a little bit of a reach, but then you listen to him talk, you hear the personality, you hear his dedication. The only reason I haven't I didn't pound the table for this being a bad pick or a reach like some of the other, I guess, national folks kind of did. So Mason Smith, if you go through his background, he was on the all SEC team as a freshman. Then he got hurt. Then he comes back. He's having a fantastic spring. LSU's raving about him. And then the season starts and he tears his ACL. He misses that whole season. And then, ACLs for different people heal differently. And last season, he didn't look like the guy that people thought he was, right? Until maybe the end of the season. And he self-admitted that he didn't feel like himself until maybe the end of the season. And the stats say that. You don't even have to go past the box score. You could look at it. All of a sudden, he starts getting sacks in the last couple of weeks of the season. And then you go watch it, and he starts to look like it. If the light is on, this guy would have been a first-round pick. I mean, he has that sort of size, that sort of difference-making ability. And the only people that know the injuries he was going through, what he was asked to do out on the field, how hard he was attacking the rehab program are the LSU coaching staff. And it just so happens that his defensive coordinator for the last 2 years is on the Jaguars coaching staff. So I'm just saying, I feel like they got a pretty good source on this one, on what he was being asked to do and how he was attacking it. And if this guy felt like he was just loafing out there or if he was just not healthy. So I'm going to go with that inside information. This is almost insider trading, gave them a hint that this guy can be that special player that everybody keeps saying the ceiling is, that people thought he was when he got recruited, and then after that fantastic freshman season. So the upside's there. I mean, this is a home run kind of swing. I kind of was talking through it the other day, and tell me how you feel about this. I think he's defensive Walker Little.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
The draft pick. He's the defensive version of the Walker Little pick.
I'm not mad at it. Yes, and listen, I like everything you said about the coach bringing in information. It's almost like as if he was in-house. Just I don't. Nobody's made the pun yet. It had to happen.
Wow.
Yeah, listen, and I know from talking to you, Travis, you've said a lot of the same things. This is a guy recovering from injury,
Right?
And he's given you a lot of wait and see. And Jamal, you make the great point about the stats, because even when a D tackle, to me at least, to somebody who follows beef as closely as I do, when a D tackle's recording stats, that reverberates, because that's not his main job set necessarily. And
Right.
if you're somebody who's trying to get stats, that's a good way to do it. I got to go to our resident DB here, though, talking about Jarrian Jones, man. I mean, this might be my favorite pick overall for the Jags. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you have?
Jarian. It's that one's Jarian.
Well, there you go. See,
He corrected us on it because we were calling him Jarian too. He said, "No, it's Jarian." I've been practicing it, trying to get it right.
That is a jarring adjustment. That's what I'll say. Anyways, Travis, go ahead.
No, that was. There's no might about it, and I know I'm supposed to love the first round pick the most because it's the first round pick. I don't care about any of that. I am a DB at heart. I am a DB in position and coaching and all of it. That pick was my favorite pick. I mean, we talked about it before the draft. We talked about it in my mocks. If we didn't leave that draft with Nardo Green, or Jarian Jones, I was gonna have a problem. Like, that was where I was. That was my starting position. So the fact that we got one of my guys, and in reality, we got three of my guys. Hey, man, I'm jumping off the building. I'm ecstatic right now. Like, because if I'm wrong, if Trent Baalke's wrong, then he's wrong with me, and at least I feel a little better about that. Like, that sounds selfish. I don't care. It is what it is.
We cooking in this kitchen, but damn it, if we set the fire, we both at fault. I'm gonna help him find the fire extinguisher.
Bingo. But no, and also with the Mason, with the pick, I got into this conversation with another Jaguar media member. I don't know, Tuesday this week, talking about the pick and how they didn't like some of the stuff that they saw on film. And I'm like, have you watched the last 3 games? And that was always my starting point. Like, he was rough to watch in some of the earlier games in the season. And I'm not going to lie about it. Like, Alabama, he basically wasn't on the field. You may as well just say that. Like, it wasn't there. I'm sorry.
That's people who are healthy.
I'm
too.
calling it what it is. But the last 3 games of the season, Texas A&M, the Wisconsin game, and it was another one like Georgia State. Those 3 games back to back, when they had him at that nose tackle, and he was pressuring all freaking game. Every time they put him in a one-on-one situation, the man was dominating. And that to me was like, all right, that's what they saw. Cool. Yeah. They figured out where to put him. They figured out how to use him, and he let him show out, and he showed out. And I think that, if anything, that was what gave them the seal of approval.
Yeah, no, I shan't front on any of that. I think we're in a consensus on that too. But let's head over to what would end up being the 4th round pick for the Jags, the consolation prize that the team attempted to offer Jamal, bringing in Javon Foster on the offensive line. I think this is the pick that's gotten the most questions so far that I've heard. Where do you stand on it, Jamal?
Questions? I don't know why anybody would look. I thought I still think that they need depth on the offensive line. I've seen enough of this group, and I think I understand putting Mitch Morris in the middle is the idea that it's going to fix all of the problems. I hope they're right, and it's just that simple, where one guy was the entire root of the issue. Now, given he isn't
a lot,
it should fix a lot, but I just don't think that's going to take them from below average to above average. Right. Like, you're moving into average territory at best. But look, Javon Foster is fine. I mean, he's a big body. He's a guy who started a ton of football games at Missouri. He got into football late. I think he got into football at 16. His dad, he has NFL bloodlines. Pops was a Houston Oiler. So, I don't hate the pick. You start getting in there, there are things that I just believe in fundamentally. Like, once you start talking NFL bloodlines, I think NFL is an athletic game, and you can kind of start to look back at that. There's also something towards having a father or someone, a family member who's been there, done that in the league, that you can kind of help you early on. You have that in-home coaching or in-family coaching.
Right.
And he said his dad never pushed him to play football. He just told him while he's playing basketball, one day you're going to get out on the football field and you're going to find a home there. And that's what happened. And now he's in the NFL. He actually was drafted around before dad. So Thanksgiving might have some little bragging at the family table. But look, I think Javon Foster is a fine pick. I think he's a big guy. I think he's going to be a swing tackle. I don't know if he's ever going to develop into a starting guy that you really want on the field, but he can play on the left and he can play on the right. And they're kind of getting to a point where more than likely Walker Little's not on the team past next season. So you're going to need another swing tackle. And Trent said it multiple times. Doug said it multiple times. It's a 3-tackle league. You need 2 starters and you need a guy who can back up both of them. And if Javon Foster can be their backup swing tackle for the entire duration of his rookie career, maybe into the future, then you know what? That's pretty good.
Well, and I think they're drafting him to be a 25 starter too. And something we talked into a little bit at length with Tony Wiggins at Locked On Jaguars when he was on last week was Walker Little and Cam Robinson will probably both be gone at the same time. I don't like that. I would love to keep Walker Little in the building, but that's a whole other conversation. No disrespect to Cam Robinson, but as a guy who was a Jimmy Garoppolo supporter, as a Niner fan, eventually even I said, listen, the best ability is availability, and you ain't got it. I think you would even talk about that on the Spaces too, by the way.
But it's mad appetizing to have 2 tackles on a rookie contract.
Sure is.
Yeah, hey, listen, now you're talking business, and I like it. But here's what I'm getting to. The upside for Foster to step in, if he's got the talent and make an immediate impact and not just be a low contract, but a bookend of low contracts with severe cans of whoop ass opened on a regular basis on the tackle spot, something this group needed, and listen, Anton Harrison was thrown through the ringer. But by the way, the consolation prize is you got to go like Walker Little and protect that side of the ball. Well, the good news is Anton Harrison's moving left side, I would assume. And now, let's put it this way. If they're going to try to pick on somebody, it is going to be Foster, and it'll be a matter of whether he can step up to it. He's going to see time. I'm confident in that.
Well,
next season or the season after?
You talking 2025, right?
But 25 is what I'm talking about, where he has that potential to be the low salary. Yeah, I transitioned quickly on you.
Well, you know me. I love secondary play. I love receiver play and quarterback. I all the skill positions I'm good at. When you're talking offensive line, hey, that's a whole nother conversation. I'll be honest. I'm gonna listen to the professionals who deal in that. Nate Tice, cool. Brett Goldman, cool. The PFF guys, awesome. I know some people don't agree with that. I don't care. I listen to everybody and just come to my own conclusions. And all of those guys have all stated, hey, Javon Foster, when you're talking about developmental tackles, he was the best of that second group. Cool. Hey, I'm on board. At that point, I don't know enough to not be on board. That sounds good to me. That's the draft and develop, please, coaches.
So from this point, Jamal, I'm going to give you free reign on the rest of the picks. Which one was your favorite among the remaining group?
My favorite among the remaining, that's easy. Cam Little. Look, that one's easy. I mean, some of them other ones, some of these late picks, I'm like, what are you doing? I'm sorry. Kid from Texas. Seems like a nice human. And I know he's going to be a kickoff returner, but I'm not on that one. But Cam Little, I mean, he is a uber confident kicker. I mean, you listen to the kid talk, confidence is through the roof. He straight up said it. Look, I smashed every workout I had, and somebody else picked a kicker ahead of me. Jacksonville's going to enjoy this pick. I'm like, I love it. Sign it up. Book him, send him out there. I mean, this kid grittied after kicking as a freshman down at LSU after kicking a game-winning field goal. As a freshman to do something like that? Come on now. And Jacksonville has been, ever since Urban kicked the kicker, it's been like a revolving door of kickers around here, just looking for a guy who could put it through the uprights consistently. They thought they had it in McManus, and then we don't need to really talk about some of those missed kicks midway through the year. But I think Cam Little is the kicker of the future. And I mean, that one, a lot of people were saying, look, the Jaguars need to draft a kicker. And a lot of us were like, I just don't know if Trent's going to pick a kicker. It just didn't seem like something that he would do. So I'm really glad that he did it. I think that's by far my favorite day 3 pick.
Well, and that cloud hanging over the franchise certainly. Listen, that as big and strong as Trent Baalke's brow is, that's how much weight fell on him to make that pick. Travis, I can see you're drooling. What do you got, buddy?
No, I was gonna say, and P.S. Shout out to you for asking the right question that got us that gold nugget of, hey, I'm the youngest kicker who's ever been drafted in the NFL. Yeah, in this post-draft media call, if you didn't ask that question, he would not have made that comment. And I was like, oh, that's good job, Jamal. So now it's good for me because I'm like, wait a minute, this dude's gonna be a 21-year-old millionaire at the start of rookie camp and the start of training camp. He's gonna be a millionaire who can't drink. That's wild. That's wild.
Hey, listen, I had to write that same article about Taylor Hendricks for the Magic when the Utah Jazz came to town here, but that's a whole other question. I'm mixing in the black and gold banneret again. Ding, my bad. But yeah, that's still weird. Hey, you're rich. Can you spot me the Uber? I know you can drive home, but I can't. No, that's funny, man. Listen, I think there's a lot of things there. I'm not surprised y'all picked Cam Little. I know he's just a kicker, air quotes, but listen, the value that he would bring. And late in the season, McManus had his struggles. Early, I think he was the difference in some cases. But yeah, but it was time. I think.
I like DeAndre Prince too. I mean, I know everybody's not on board, but again, a DB guy likes the DB. Shocker, call the police.
I'm glad you said it because I was knowing him.
Yeah, I know, but that dude, he's super confident too, though, man. And he's like a dog. Like he's just like a dog. You got to just pull back that chain. Just he's that guy, and I'm here for it, bro. Like I truly am. Like I really pray that he is that true break glass in case of emergency corner who you don't expect to have to lean on significantly in that rookie year, but if you do and he balls out of control, hey man, you're in a great situation. And I really do hope that's the case for him with the Tyson Campbell role or even for next year.
Goodness, didn't we see that last year with as many injuries as was had amongst the DB core? It's not break glass in case emergency. If this happens again, we got this. Am I wrong, Jamal?
No, you're not. They've been taking swings at corner for a couple of years now. I mean, it was Buster Brown and Greg Jr. the one year. Then last year it was Eric Hallett and Christian Braswell. This year he goes with Jarian Jones and DeAndre Prince. So look, Prince been trying to get a couple of developmental corners in the pipeline that he feels good about for 3 years now. And he's been taking these two swings a year, just trying to get them in the building. So I mean, he's kind of telling you that he doesn't necessarily love what he's seen from the last guys because he keeps going back to the well looking for more. Though I like Prince. I think when I went back and watched Prince's stuff from Ole Miss, I was like, okay, I see the vision here. And I mean, he seems like a really mature, competitive kind of guy. I think the Jaguars got a couple of steals along the way. I mean, I don't know if you want to go into the undrafted free agent class too, but I think they got a couple of steals in that.
I was going to ask you, actually. Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so I really like David White Jr., mostly because he's from Jacksonville, went to Westside High School, gets to play for the hometown team. So rooting for him more just because he's a Jacksonville guy. Got to talk to him lead up to the draft. And really nice, humble kid, hardworking. So definitely rooting for him. But Andrew Parker, I know a lot of people are talking about Cephas, but Andrew Parker, the linebacker, uber athletic, App State guy. I mean, they went and dug in the crates to find this guy. I mean, they got Cooper Hodges from App State last year. They go and get Andrew Parker this year. I wouldn't be surprised, especially with these the new kickoff rules, or why I keep looking at these linebackers, because Trent said it himself. And you think about the way the rules are, you're not going to see the Tim Joneses, the as many corners lining up on these kickoffs anymore. I don't think. I think they're going to go for those more linebacker types. You'll see more defensive linemen, athletic defensive linemen out there because it's this 5-10 yard collision, and you need guys that can disengage. Right. So I think you're going to see more guys like an Andrew Parker, who is an uber athletic guy with decent size, who could be a developmental linebacker, but he's going to be a guy that I think is going to be on special teams on that unit. Those are the types of players that this is going to be geared towards.
And listen, I would love to have chipped in as I covered the Cure Bowl where App State participated, but there was 2 inches of rain during the football game. So I don't know how much evaluation I can actually give you from that standpoint. So with all of that being said, Listen, I mean, I hate asking for the grades, but this is really kind of the best way to kind of evaluate how someone feels right now about the draft. So let's get all the obligatory grades mean nothing. Everything's based on how we feel. It's really what happens years from now. Blah, blah, blah. Great. Jamal, how would you grade this draft?
I got it at a B minus. I'm like right above on the line between a B and a C for it. Love the process of getting to Brian Thomas Jr. in the first round, the trade back, getting the picks for the future. Love the Cam Little pick. Kind of felt like the Mason Smith pick was a little bit of a reach. The last round pick wasn't in love with it, even though he's an uber athlete, long arms. I know Trent couldn't help himself with a guy like that. But I just kind of felt like some of the day 2, day 3s could have been were a little off value-wise, but I don't hate the draft. I love the potential. I think they got bigger, physical. He went to the SEC well, which, I mean, it's tough to go wrong with trusting SEC football at this point. So don't hate the draft. I think there's a ton of potential there that in a couple of years, everybody looks at this and says this is a cornerstone kind of draft, but we got to wait till the guys get on the grass, of course.
Yeah, no, I can't front on that. Travis, where are you?
Yeah, I guess Jamal would say I grade on a curve. I gave him a B, solid B. Seeing as he gave him a B minus, I guess I'm a homer nowadays. But yeah,
shirt on today. It does.
Hey, I'm in agreement with him, man. This might have been one of the best processes I'd seen from Trent Baalke so far. Like, in spite of the fact that he tried to trade up and couldn't trade up, and that is concerning because that's 2 years in a row that we now have. They publicly stated that they tried to trade up multiple occasions and were unsuccessful, where you see cheap. Other teams trade up.
He's cheap.
Yeah, say that a little louder. He's cheap. That's what
he's cheap. Look, he's cheap. He ain't gonna overpay for it, and they probably want him. He's cheap. He's cheap with the contracts with salary cap and probably cheap trading up too.
Yes, and that's very unfortunate.
I heard an unconfirmed report that he was this close to getting it, and then he called somebody a pancake eating beep, and that ruined it. Anyway,
wow.
It's a draft day reference, Travis. Why are you?
I watch draft day every year, bro. I watched it the day before the draft. Of course. Come on.
I could actually, for some reason, I could see Trent Baalke pacing around and dropping that line like Kevin Costner did. Man. Anyways,
and getting the kick returner out of it. Yeah, sure. Anyways, no, but no, I was not at the time of the draft a fan of the Brian Thomas Jr. pick, and then I watched like 4 hours of his film because again, before the draft, I'm watching 30 minutes of I got my opinion. I'm out. Like I watched 1 or 2 games, I'm out, and actually took the time and truly watched 4 of his games, and I'm like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing here. All right, I'm not mad about this anymore, and I love the process. So great, good on that pick. I understood the Mason Smith pick, in spite of the fact that yes, it could be considered a reach. At bare minimum, I think that's being fair to Trent. It's an athletic guy. You have the coach on staff. You seem to have, he ended the season with this arrow pointing up. I got what you were trying to do there. Cool. We already know how I feel about both corners. Jarian Jones and DeAndre Prince. I'm on board with both of those. Those are 2 of my guys. Cam Little, that's my other guy. Like at that point, I'm already that's A territory. Any other picks you make at that point, you bringing the grade down. Like we already good. So at that point, yeah, everybody's always talking about the questionable kick returner pick in the 5th round. But if we're really talking about a 5th round pick, what are we talking about, man? Come on. And everybody's laughing about the great value Trayvon Walker and Miles Cole being the last pick. And that just makes me laugh every time I hear it, though. But it's great, though. If you have a developmental edge guy in the 7th round, why not go and get it, bro?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of there. Those responses are all things Travis is not making those up, and as thusly analyzed. And listen, as the guy who's been hurt the most by Trent Baalke in the past, having already witnessed him ruin a franchise that I follow closely, I'm giving him a B too. I know where you're coming from with Jamal, but I'm in that Allen Iverson space as well. We talk about 3rd day. Not day 1, a 3rd day. Okay. Okay, it didn't work perfectly, but you know what I'm getting at. And listen, I feel like Robinson, if he were picked 7th instead of 5th, everybody'd be happy with it. But that's a whole other question. At least somebody out there is paying attention to the fact that the kickoff is changing, and I have to give Trent credit for that. So I don't feel like every franchise has done that appropriately. I mean, but we'll leave all of that at that. Listen, this was an awesome show, guys. This is one we could have had go an hour, but at the end of the day, we all got business, and it is what it is. Jamal, let the world know where you could be found.
Hey, I'm over on News for Jax all the time. You can track down coverage over on newsforjax.com. Just click on our handy dandy sports page, and you'll be able to track down plenty of stuff there.
And what's your pod again?
News for Jags podcast.
There you go. Travis.
I can be found on all the socials. Travis D. Holmes. You can find my writings covering the Jaguars on bigcatcountry.com, and you can find me here every Friday, wherever you get your pod. It's on all the podcatchers or YouTube, on the Sports Den media page, or in Sartoba Media, and all the awesome places. Catch it while it's free, bro. Catch it while it's free. What can you be found, Nash?
I want the record to show that Travis D. Holmes here has his visual set up on point so he could show off for the sports anchor in the building. That's how you prepare, Travis Holmes. And listen, make sure you check out the video version if you haven't caught it on the podcatchers, on the Student of the Game podcast channel there, on all the podcatchers. Like I said, of course, I am Kyle Nash, the Student of the Game. You can find me on Twitter, Threads, and Instagram at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a Student of the Game. Check out my writings with the 3-point conversion, the black and gold banneret, and the Jaguar report, as well as my coverage of the Orlando Magic with A7BN Sports. I will be in the building for Game 6. Let's see if we get a Game 7. Now, 1 point away from this being Imagining 6. I was this close to looking like a potential genius, but hopefully the Magic maintain the platitude that the series doesn't start until somebody wins an away game, and hey, hopefully it's them in Game 7 on Sunday. But with all that in mind, special thanks to my guy Jamal St. Cyr, always at the ready, always flexible when I double book myself. But until next time, everybody, an honor, joy, and privilege. Class dismissed.